Hello everyone. It's Friday. We're here. I hope my headphones are working. Oh wait, I can't hear anybody anyway. Um, I've been in Zoom meetings for 4 hours, and I've got two Zoom meetings after this. That's the way of the world. You'll have to forgive me while I have a little snack while I do this because I'm just bouncing around. How is everyone doing? It's been a week of crazy bullshit from the President of the United States, which is par for the course. Oh, Yuri just texted me. He's like, tell people to go comment on the episode in the chat. All right, I'm telling you. Comment on, comment, comment on our episode. How is everyone? What's up? Oh, good. You didn't use the calorie tracking app. Woo woo. How did it feel? What was it like? Um, why are you horrible? You're not horrible. You're a wonderful person. This is what is this? A fig bar. I just needed a little snack. Welcome. We have someone whose first time is on the live. Wonderful. Yeah, these are really good. Oh, you feel horrible. Okay. That is a difference. I'm sorry that you feel horrible. Oh, always such a bummer. Yeah, these are always on set. Um, oh, welcome, first timers. Ah, amazing. Um, so you're not feeling good, Jacqueline. That's what we're getting. Um, it's a hard moment. Oh wow, Anna, congratulations. That's huge. Do you know when you'll find out if you were approved? Shayna. Yeah. Integrating like exercise and goals around fitness into recovery is a challenge. It's not impossible. It's definitely a challenge, but it's good that you're being aware of it. Um, and I wonder if there's a way to be like extra mindful, working with a therapist, making sure like what are the signs that where are the benchmarks, in your brain in your thought process, and what do you have to do in terms of like eating to make sure that you're fueling that exciting goal. I admire people who can run marathons. I have no interest myself, but I think it's really cool. It's a really cool challenge as part of, oh, I just dropped some of this on the floor, as part of your recovery. Oh, so many comments. I'm not doing a very good job keeping up. Oh, quick binge comment. Why wasn't Drake Bell called? Well, so the whole point of those X calls was that she wasn't calling the right people. That she was calling people that she had sort of like flings with or like not emotionally connective conversations with. And with Jack and the blind girl, they had a real relationship. It was an unhealthy one, but there's real feelings there that they need to work through. So he's not one of the ones that she would have wanted to call in those moments, right? Because she would have had to face real intimacy. So hopefully we get to do more of this show at some point in some capacity. And we'll get to see him again. Oh, so we've got some feelings of probably depression and loneliness coming up in our thread here. How do all of us here when we're feeling that depression, and I know it feels different for everyone, but I know that when it comes up for me, it's really hard to oh hey, it's really hard to have the motivation to do things, to get out of bed, to be active. And I always find it to be like a challenging balance between honoring rest, which is important, I heard you, I saw you using the word lazy. And, I think that word can be really damaging because we live in this culture, this like hustle culture where we have to constantly be producing and constantly being doing. And I think rest and just existing can be enough sometimes. And sometimes we just need to give ourselves permission to just be. So I'd want to invite you to explore what happens if you take a little bit of the judgment off of what you're going through and just say like this is what I'm feeling and experiencing. But I completely understand the desire to not feel that way, and you want to be doing one thing but it's hard for you to snap out of it. I'm seeing some great suggestions of finding like comedy shows. I know when I was going through my last breakup that was really really hard. Oh good, I'm so glad, Chloe. I had Schitt's Creek on just constantly. I think I watched every episode 5 times, or I would literally just have it on, even if I was like cooking dinner or I don't know, texting a friend. It would just be on. It was like I'm gonna raise this up. It was like my background soundtrack, because their voices made me feel better and it made me laugh. Oh, cool. Sarah's got a great idea. Yes, Laura, I know it is hard. It is hard to do when you're feeling like that. Oh, I watched that Quarter Life Crisis. Also, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you like little things like crossword puzzles. I've been really into crossword puzzles, and they're helping my brain kind of, I don't know, focus. Sometimes having routines can be helpful to get out of a little bit of a funk, and perhaps there's someone in your life that can help hold you accountable to a routine. But I also want to say it's okay to rest too. And then of course, oh, I love that, memorizing poetry. And then of course, having a support team, having a therapist that you can talk with and that can help you navigate your way out of those tough feelings, is really really important too. Oh, making rest a part of your routine. That's great. I could stand to do that a little bit more myself. That's great. Yeah. Get a small walk, get a coffee. Yeah, any sort of like for me, physiological state change is very important. Like taking a shower, moving into a room that's hotter or colder, changing my physiology if I've been laying down, just to go and walk around the house once to get my blood pumping, just changing like outside in work, can help too. Yeah, changing the environment, lighting a candle, playing some music, bringing a blanket to sit outside, a blanket that you really like, and something cozy to sit outside could be really really nice. Oh, that's great, Nat, sewing the masks. What do you think about quarantine EDs, gaining or losing weight? Well, I think that quarantine makes having an eating disorder a lot more challenging. And in terms of gaining or losing weight, weight is such a terrible indicator of health. Shape is a terrible indicator of health. And any sort of like shape change goals, I'm not for at all, ever. I just don't, again, not a doctor, not a therapist, just a gal speaking from her own recovery. But I really think that that focusing on shape and focusing on the ways that our bodies are composed is a waste of our energy and our brilliant minds and our life force, and often is not connected to health at all. There are a lot of deep lies that the diet and wellness industry tell us about weight and shape having to do with health, but they don't. And all of that diet culture, that fat phobia, is so deeply tied into white supremacy and into racism against black bodies. And I've been doing a lot of learning in that realm. And I'd highly recommend listening to Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. Um, that's what I'm listening to right now. And it's, it's a tough read. It hurts. And I think that's good that especially those of us who are white and struggling or have struggled to know that there is a history there that is tied to white supremacy. Because I don't know about you, but I get really pissed off when I find out that I've been participating in something without realizing that I've been participating in something. Like I thought I was just participating in diet culture, but it turns out I was also participating in white supremacy. And for me, that anger motivates me to stay in recovery because I don't want to participate in that. So if anger is motivating for any of you, I recommend reading that book. It's motivating for me, but everyone responds to different things. I've been blabbing now, so I'm gonna read. Oh shucks, my hair. A friend did it yesterday, and I'm learning to. This is off track, but I'm trying to start to embrace a middle part. I've never had the boldness to embrace the middle part, but I'm trying it out. The important things. Oh, interesting. It sounds like there's a discussion happening about friends and boundaries. We got into a conversation about this in our live talk back because we, had some people that rightly so felt really sort of shocked by Angela and Kate's relationship and the fact that Kate, expressed in a aggressive way that she needed space from Angela. She didn't do it in a perfect way. None of our characters are perfect, and none of them are particularly healthy at present when we meet them. But it trigger an interesting discussion of boundaries and how to advocate for boundaries within friendships in a way that is healthy, probably in a different way than what Kate did. And that enacting boundaries can be an incredibly loving act for both you and the other person involved. Because we all need different things at different points in our lives, and we all need different things, and it can be really hard not to take a request for a boundary personally. But I think keeping in mind that it has more to do with what that friend is going through, and that, maybe that space will help the two of you sort of reset how you relate. It's been really difficult for me in friendships of mine that have been long lasting. People grow, people change, and it's always difficult to adapt the friendship to the change, adapt the friendship to the maturing people. This is kind of an obvious example, but a ton of my friends right now are having babies, and I don't have kids, and it changes the nature of our friendship with each other because they need to be taking care of their baby. And so we have to sort of redefine our boundaries, redefine how we're going to interact with each other. And it can be a painful process, but I think that if you're willing to go through that process of reevaluating boundaries, reevaluating relationships, it can be a really beneficial thing and really strengthen that relationship. Okay, now I'm going to check back in with these. Let's see here. Oh, good. We had some folks keep off the food trackers. Hell yes. Get rid of those apps. I wonder, could you do it for another week? Just an experiment. Let's see here. Oh, Velasco is struggling with bulimia. It sounds like you're really in that cycle. I feel for you. I've been there. A lot of us have been there. And I say this as much as I possibly can, that I highly recommend finding a therapist, a support group. There's a ton of free online virtual support groups that are linked on our HLG Studios channel, that are linked in our videos. It's a great starting point for finding support, but finding support through a therapist, a dietitian, whatever kind of team you have the capacity to compile for yourself. And I know that there are massive barriers to treatment. But if you can advocate for yourself, if you can get that professional support, that's the only thing that worked for me. I also really had to take ownership of the fact that I couldn't recover from my eating disorder until I stopped trying to lose weight. And that's that. I could not restrict, because when you restrict, you set yourself up for a binge, and then the whole cycle starts again. And that's the cycle that I was in. I would pretend I wasn't restricting, but I was. And you kind of know deep down, I think, or at least I kind of know deep down, when I'm trying to pull one over on myself. And I really had to stop doing that. And it didn't mean the binges went away right away. They would still happen, but I couldn't restrict. Even if I binged, I couldn't restrict. You had to keep eating. I had to keep feeding myself the nutrients that my body needed to take care of myself consistently. And then those impulses to binge would start to go down, right? And this is supplemented with therapy, with group therapy, with a team. That's what worked for me. So, because I'm not a professional, I speak from a place of my experience, which is, wrapped up in my identity as a white woman, and all of that comes with it. But I do highly recommend professional help, because you deserve it. That pain is real and valid, and you deserve to have a team helping you manage it and find your way to the other side, because there's hope and there's life after all of this. And I know, because I'm living it. I just got a question: was binge triggering for you? No, it wasn't actually, because I had been so I had a significant number of years in recovery under my belt before we shot that. I don't think it would have been healthy for me to shoot that while I was in treatment, or even probably after the first couple of years of being out of treatment. I needed like a good solid chunk of time. So for me, it was pretty cathartic. And I, have such a supportive team around me. Do I think it's possible to recover without telling anyone you know? Yeah, I think it could be. That sounds awfully lonely, though. It sounds like an awfully lonely way to do it. I think it's possible to recover in a lot of different ways. But I know I felt super alone when I was, in peak illness, and trying to do that without help from a team. I mean, goodness, you deserve to not be alone. You deserve to have support. So yeah, I think you can do it, but I would recommend community. I always recommend community. So Jacqueline, I'm sending you a lot of love, because I can tell I'm missing some of these messages because they're coming really fast and I'm on my phone here. But I can sense that there's a lot of pain and anxiety, and I've noticed that for a couple of weeks. And I just want to say that I see you, and I see that you're struggling, and there's love for you here, and there's support for you here, and that you're not alone. And I know it sounds like you feel quite isolated, that you're not identifying with this idea of friendship right now. But know that, in this space, you have community here. Let's see. Yeah, I always regret my meals, says Dinesi. Well, I acknowledge that you're still eating them. That's the first step, is eating, even if you have discomfort, uncomfortable feelings after. Making sure that you're nourishing yourself and taking care of yourself is the first step, and then sort of managing that discomfort, and unlocking and exploring why those feelings are coming up. Yeah, ghost kitten. I know. I completely understand that feeling of intuitive eating seeming like a completely foreign concept. I felt that same way for such a long time. I was like, what? How would this even be possible? All I can speak from my own experience is that it happened for me very, very gradually, until one day I sort of realized that I was kind of doing it. Um, and I say, and it wasn't magic, right? I had a team, I had a program, I had a meal plan. I followed for a long time, and I would just sort of gradually flirt with variances from it. And, my team helped me. Yeah, the intuitive eating book, I haven't read it, but I would love to. Yeah, I wonder if the key is not focusing on, oh, when's the shift going to happen? When's it going to happen? It just sort of gradually happened for me, I think, because we forget when we're in our illness, of course, that our body is trying to take care of itself. Our bodies know what they need. And we're trying to override that system, right? We're trying to override. And once we can start nourishing that body consistently, the body will start to do its thing. I think it's different for everyone, Ghost Kitten, but for me, I would say like I got out of treatment and maybe like within like 6 to 8 months, I was sort of practicing intuitive eating without really intending to. I sort of just was finding that I didn't need my meal plan anymore. I had worked through, and I was still in therapy during all of this, right? I wasn't in treatment, but yeah, it happened quicker than I thought it would. You know, Yeah, Shanna, I think that's a good concern, and if it's not healthy for you, if you find that trying to eat intuitively, you're not ready for it, that's okay too. It's okay. Like, it's completely okay to be in process with it. It's really, really important, in fact. So just like keeping an eye on that, be like, oh no, I'm having the impulse to do this. Maybe you try like one intuitive day a week or something, or one intuitive meal a day. There are ways you can kind of play with it and see, or like intuitive eating your meals, but you're setting an alarm so you're eating at mealtime. Oh, they have limits. Oh, that's annoying. YouTube, why? Oh, my eye itches. Oh, I'm so glad, my warning. That makes me happy. Star, it sounds like you're experiencing a lot of pain. I hope that you can find a good support system. Oh, wow. Lane, congratulations. And I can understand why that would be an anxiety trigger. I wonder, I would imagine there are folks online who have been through that experience who might be able to talk with you about what that was like and sort of help you mitigate some of that anxiety around it. That makes sense that it's triggering and a little bit nerve wracking. But I think acknowledging that you can survive it. Bye, Jacqueline. Thanks for being here. We love you. We support you. Um, I think maybe sometimes, I don't know if this will work for you, but sometimes this works for me. I will frame things in my mind as an experiment. Like, I'm experimenting to see if this will change my appetite. Sometimes that helps relieve a little bit of the pressure. I don't know if that languaging might help for you at all, but I wonder if just reading about how testosterone affects other folks might help alleviate some of the anxiety around it. But that makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I think it's really cool you're going down that road. It's great. Oh, cool. We have a suggestion here. Erin, I'm going to say this last name right. Erin and Suni. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, even better finding someone who has experience with an eating disorder too, who has been through it, who can probably really speak to navigating the feelings that come up about that transition. That's cool. Thanks for that rec, Sarah. Oh, you have your first therapy session. Yay! Congratulations, Katie. Oh, Catherine, I feel you. I know that body dysmorphia. It is tough, tough, tough. I try this thing sometimes, and I don't know if it'll work for you. Where if I have the impulse to like look at my body in the mirror, I'll try to ward it off for even like 2 extra seconds, or even just like close my eyes and count to 10 and then do it. Like putting something. I might still do it. I might still body check, but even putting something in the way or some sort of piece to, because it becomes so automatic, right? At least for me, every time I pass a mirror, I like start to body check. Even still, even this far into my recovery, it's just so ingrained, that if I can even slow down the process just by a couple of seconds, it helps me at least be a little bit more aware of the experience. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but it's something that I've been trying. Yeah, Watson. A lot of fear, a fear of letting go. I know it's so interesting. We have this fear of letting go of something that we can't actually hold, right? We can't control our eating disorders. Otherwise, why would we recover if they worked? But they don't work. They suck. They're the worst. And yet there is this fear of letting go of it. And it is a coping mechanism, right? So I completely relate to the fear of wanting to let go of a coping mechanism that is serving a purpose. But yeah, it's interesting. It feels like it's a part of you, but it's not a real thing, right? It's a cycle of thought patterns that result in behavior patterns that result in emotional responses. So it's not a real person. It's not, you're not going to be any less you when you work to recover. In fact, you're going to start being able to be you again, because what the eating disorder does with its thought patterns, with its malnutrition, with its obsessive cyclical thinking, it steals our lives from us. It steals our joy. It steals our capacity for a relationship, our capacity for community, our capacity for fun, our capacity for romance. It steals it all. And yet we're afraid to, because life is challenging and scary. And when you start to change your thought patterns around food and bodies and eating, and you change your behaviors, and you focus less on what you're putting in and taking out of your body, then you have to sort of deal with the complexities of real life. And that can be very scary and very hard. I don't know if any of that resonated, but I just sort of started talking and kept talking, which is what this is. Okay, how do I scroll up on here? Oh, watch Grandma try to use technology. And you could also cover your mirrors or take them down for a little while. See what happens. I mean, maybe that could be our next challenge. If there's like one mirror in your home that is particularly triggering for you, like take it down for a week. We turned off, we didn't do our food apps this past week. And this week, maybe we don't we cover our mirrors. I don't know. It might not work for everyone. But if when you hear that you think, oh, that would be an interesting experiment, maybe give it a shot, see what happens. The worst thing that can happen is that you say, I don't like this, and you put it back up. Low stakes experiment. Having a mother, experiencing having a mother with an eating disorder, and how that can be triggering. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us end up sort of learning our thought patterns around food and bodies from those we grew up with, which is not to place all of the blame on our parents, right? This is an incredibly phobic, racist, homophobic, patriarchal culture that preaches these messages, whether anyone in our home struggles with eating disorders or not, but that adds an added element, an added challenge, right? that you're having to field somebody else's disordered thoughts as they're saying them to you. And this does kind of bring us back to that boundaries conversation. And if that person feels like a safe person to enact boundaries with, and not even making it about them or their eating disorder, just saying like, hey, I'm working on XYZ, it would be so helpful for me if we could avoid talking about ABC. Or maybe you have a code word with your mom where if things start to get triggering, you say that code word and then you go and you talk about a Netflix show instead or something. But I think eventually part of recovery ends up having to be, how do we live in this sick society? You know, how do we stay healthy in a society that's sick? And it's hard, and it takes hard work, and and that's why I kind of think of myself as in process with recovery, because our society is so sick and fat phobic. And oh, I'm so proud, Velasco. Our society is so sick and so messed up that we do have to sort of practice. I like to like think of it as a rebellion, like eating like this, like not engaging with fat phobia, not engaging with diet culture is part of like a revolution, and we are on the front lines, and we have to do the work with ourselves first in order to, you know, build a better future. So that kind of thinking helps me. I don't know if that's helpful for any of you. Let's see here. Vanilla, premium vanilla, in terms of like what my meal plan looked like, you know, I don't even remember, but I probably wouldn't get into detail on it just because every person needs different things based on where they are in their recovery and where their body is in terms of like what the body needs. So every meal plan is going to be a little bit different, but finding a nutritionist or dietitian, especially from the like, yes, revolt against diet culture, healthy at every size modality, I think is really important. You know, there are some dietitians out there who mean well, but who are still sort of preaching the gospel of diet culture. And we don't want to listen to that because it is incorrect and set up to make people money that we don't want them to make money off of our pain. So finding a sort of healthy at every size dietitian who can work with you and set up something for you that's gonna work and that's gonna lead you on the road to recovery. That's what I would. Yeah, it's incredibly triggering when those around us, you know, when those around us struggle. It can be really hard, and that's where that, you know, those boundaries have to come into play because we have to protect ourselves first. I'm an Aries. An Aries, yes, yes, an act of rebellion. It is. It is. It is. Yeah, maybe let's this week maybe let's think about like slowing down our body checking this week. Even if we're still doing it, it's okay if we still do it. But trying to put a couple of seconds in between the moment we have the impulse to body check and then when our eyes do it. Giving space to sort of be like, okay, this is what I'm about to do, and noticing how you feel before, during, and after. Let's make that our goal this week. It's kind of fun, isn't it? I unfortunately have to make this live this week a little bit shorter because my work schedule is a little bit bananas. Let's see. what are my thoughts on the body positivity frenzy going on right now? Um, I might not know exactly what you're talking about. I know what body positivity is, not as much as I should know. I know that I've learned that body positivity was kind of co-opted. It was primarily people of color who occupy larger bodies, and that the movement was kind of co-opted by probably thin privileged white ladies like myself. And I know I've used that hashtag incorrectly, and I know I've kind of used it incorrectly, and I'm trying to do some unlearning in relationship to that. For me, I'm really curious about, and I've been talking about it a little bit recently, body neutrality as something I'm kind of thinking about, which is, yeah, like not worrying so much about my body. Although I have just started reading The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor, who's this fucking incredible educator, activist, woman who sort of in the intro of her book talks about how body neutrality is great, but she wants the goal to be more than that, to be more incredible than that. But buy her book, and if you can, buy it from a local bookstore, and if you can, buy it from a local Black-owned bookstore or queer-owned bookstore. I'm listening to it on audiobook, and she narrates it, which is great because she's a wonderful speaker, and her Instagram account is incredibly challenging and important. And anyway, so I had been very much in the body neutrality mindset, saying, I want to be body neutral. I don't want to be thinking about my body. I spent too much time thinking about my body, too much time thinking about food. And that was working for me for a while. And then I started to read Sonia's book, and I thought, oh, wow, I wonder, she's making some interesting points here. I wonder if there's a new stage of evolution in the way I go about it. So I don't know. I'm in flux, and I'm trying to learn when I can learn, and trying to unlearn what part of my previous learning has been steeped in white supremacy and diet culture. Diet culture and white supremacy can be really, really sneaky, and I'm just trying to learn what pockets of myself it still exists in, and how to sort of infuse that in my recovery. So I had someone. I have to go in a second here. I had someone ask for book recs. So let's put our book recs in here. So I just said Body is Not an Apology, Sonia Renee Taylor, Fearing the Black Body, Sabrina Strings, Anti-Diet, Christy Harrison, 8 Keys to Eating Disorder Recovery. Did I get the title wrong? Yeah, The Body is Not an Apology. Yeah. 8 Keys to Eating Disorder Recovery by Carolyn Costin, Intuitive Eating, which I haven't read yet, but I hear is amazing. What are some other ones y'all love? Always looking to expand my arsenal. Christy Harrison has a podcast that's great. Yeah. So, okay. I have to run to work. Well, to work on the computer virtually. But this week, we are going to do 10% more mindful. We're going to be 10% more mindful around body checking. And that can mean different things for different people. It can mean taking down our mirrors. It can mean putting a blanket over the mirror. It can mean closing your eyes and counting to 5 before you look in the mirror. It can mean, thank you, they're fake. It can mean anything you want it to be, but 10% more mindful around body checking. Wonderful. It was so great to be here with you all. I'm sorry today's session has to be a little bit shorter, but I will be back next Friday. Yes, reading stuff that isn't ED related, totally helpful as well. Yes. I love you all, And we got this. We can do this. Love you, love you. This happens.